Sir,
Yeah.
this one to all the church of the Philippines. Yeah, this one to San Agustin Church. Yeah, this one is 2 towers in 1 towers.
Huh?
Yeah. Yeah, this one to Maming, to Chinese Pirata. Yeah, this one to right side. Yeah, this one to right side. Yeah, this one to San Agustin Museum. Yeah, this one to museum is 201 per share. Yeah, this one to inside the museum.
Oh, it's on the UNESCO. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh. Okay. Dangerous.
Yeah, this one there is 201 per share. Yeah, this
Yeah.
one to San Agustin Museum.
Have you? Or? Oh, I have. There. 2 person. Thank you.
And this one to take it, sir. This one to work.
Oh.
Okay. Here, this one to your guide to San Agustin Museum.
Yeah.
This one to no pay. Yeah, this
Yeah.
one to pray. Yeah, this one to
Yeah.
your guide. Yeah, this one to San Agustin.
Thank you.
Come on.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Buhay, where are you from, sir?
Norway.
Norge.
Norway, yes.
And welcome to San Agustin Museum. My name is Rafi and I will be your tour guide this afternoon. And as we start this discussion in our tour, this is the entrance of the museum, which is called Door of Love, which is made from Malawi during the 17th century. And this is a reminder of how Augustine friars to enter here in this door with the presence of love, and the hatred will go away and enter here with one community. And the IHS over here represents here in 3 initials in Latin: Jesu Humanitas Salvatore, which means Jesus the Savior of humankind. And it will remind you, sir, you may also take photos and videos, but no flash.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
That's the door.
Allow pero no flash po. Alright, so over here is the portrait of the founder of Manila, and it's verse Spanish Governor General Miguel Lopez Legazpi. He is the adelantado, which means he was the advanced general because he circumnavigates from around the world. So alongside he has 4 Augustine friars who were accompanied by his expedition. Among them is Father Andres Urdaneta, who is an Augustinian friar, and he was his first navigator. As you can see, he was holding a map, and he has known about the expedition in the Philippines prior to the Cebu and the Manila. Before that, it was the Villalobos expedition. Their base was in Acapulco, Mexico, and they arrived in the Philippines a few months later. So some say it was Magellan who was actually dead in Cebu, so they demanded the body of Magellan to return to the Spaniards, but the natives refused. So instead they go into Mindanao where they preached Christianity. But sadly they were captured by the Portuguese. So they returned once more in 1565. They arrived in Cebu, which is the cradle of Christianity and the home of Santo Niño. In 1571, so after Urdaneta passed away in 1568, his successor, Father Diego Herrera, became the first Augustinian priest who arrived in Manila alongside Miguel Lopez Legazpi.
Oh.
And over here in this next room is the Sala Recibidor, or the very first classroom of the convent, which is back then called Aula during the 16th century. But during the 18th century, it was the office of the procurator, which means he handles the administration of the church and convent. But in 1973, this was the first room of the San Agustin Museum. And over here in the middle of the flag, this room is the galleon chips. And we also have another galleon chips, which is now displayed in the front of the entrance. And this is they use for the transport of the Augustinian friars. Their base was in Acapulco, Mexico, which I mentioned earlier, and then arrived in Manila. It took about 3 months. 3 months of their transport. They not just Augustinian friars carried the ships, but the products that they transferred from galleon ships. And in 1815, as the Suez Canal was opened for shipping, they used this route from Cadiz all via the Cape of Good Hope, which is in the African coast, or continent rather, and they arrived in Jakarta and then arrived in Manila, which took about 7 months.
Long trip.
Yes, they used sail.
Yeah.
But in 1869, as the Suez Canal was open for shipping, they used this route. They had many stopovers. First as Barcelona, and then travel began by the Suez Canal, and they arrived in Sri Lanka, which is back then Ceylon, Singapore, which is also a British colony, and then Manila, which took about 40 days. The shortest route, because their transport is called the steamships or vapor.
Yeah.
And over here is the trade products that they introduced in the galleon trade from the colonies. Among them is Our Lady Consolation, which is made in the Philippines, which is made from ivory and wood. The game box in China. And this is the Manton de Manila, which is made from embroidered silk. This is they used to wear Filipinas way back then to cover their skin, kind of like a big scarf or big cloth. If they wear a lot of these mantons, they were actually rich, or they call it maharlika if they wear a lot of these.
Okay.
And over here is the chasuable, which is the wear of the Santo Niño, or the garments of the Santos, or even priests. We also have the Santo Niño, which is now a replica.
It's not, hindi po ito replika?
Huh?
Hindi po ito replika. Ito talaga ang totoo.
Totoo po yan. It's true. It's display. And over here is the fan, which is made in ivory in China. And this is the spices that they introduced in the galleon trade. This is the example of display here at the collection. And one of the most rarest and most expensive spices is none other than cinnamon. And this is the storage jars that they trade in China. Also the originals from the Qing Dynasty and Ming Dynasties, respectively. They also trade with Philippines before the Spaniards came. And then over here this is the products that they introduced from Mexico, which brought from Mexico. And this is the wood of the Assumption of the Virgin Mary from Spain. The alabaster, which is a rock mineral for carving. This is the alabaster of Saint Michael the Archangel. And this is the Spanish coins, or the silver reales, which is minted from Mexico. Minted means it's not typical candy, but also engraved of the coins back then. Many centuries later, it was introduced to the Philippines. This is where they buy the spices. And this over here is the fruits and plants or crops that carried all the way from Mexico. And one of the most well-known fruit that they introduced in the Philippines, brought from Mexico, is pineapple or piña. And because back then fruits on the basket in the table were not to eat by the wealthy, because if they owned the fruits, a lot of fruits in the basket in their house, they were considered as wealthy people if they display of the fruits. That's why every Filipinos, especially New Year's, we brought foods for not just for wealthy, but for peace and prosperity for the new year. That's why we display a lot of fruits.
Okay.
And in these illustrations here, this is they brought from Mexico, like cacao or chocolate, arabica, which is coffee, pineapple, corn, sugarcane, and medicine plants. And over here, this is the replica image of Santo Niño de Cebu, which is, however, the original image was in the minor basilica in Cebu, which is the size is 7 inches and it's made from wood, not ivory.
This is our
Every tradition we use the Santo in every homes.
yeah.
We carry them, we use them, and we venerate them every day or pray for them.
Okay, yeah.
And in both on the left and right of this collection is the Bibles from the 16th to the 17th century. However, it was in Latin. Alright, so the next gallery over here is the paintings of how Santo became introduced to the Philippines, or put it simply, how Christianity was introduced to the Philippines. Starting from the main man himself is Ferdinand Magellan. He is a navigator and sailor originally from Portugal, but he was switched sides to Spain. So as they arrived in Cebu in 1521, after this scene here in the first mass in Cebu, the Santo Niño was given to Queen Juana and King Humabon and the rest of the Cebuanos. The main reason why is Magellan has a very long voyage, because he discovered the Magellan Strait, which is in South America, and then he was the first guy who discovered the Pacific Ocean. And as they arrived in Mariana Islands, which is not yet a U.S. territory, and back then it was the home of the indigenous people, where they stole the food, the water, their belongings and resources. Thus, they call it the Isla de los Ladrones, the Island of Thieves. And as they arrived in Cebu, so they exchanged the image to the Cebuanos, because many of the natives, because they have many food, water, and the resources that the Spaniards actually needed for their next journey. So 44 years later, after Magellan was killed by Lapu-Lapu, the very first hero in the Philippines, this painting shows Legazpi and Urdaneta arrived in Cebu in 1565, and they negotiate with the other tribes here in this painting. So Legazpi was holding a sword to colonize the Philippines, and Urdaneta holding a crucifix or a cross, symbolizing to baptize the natives, or they call it Indios back then. We are in the lower class, actually.
Yeah.
And this is a picture of the original image of Santo Niño, which is now in Cebu, which is in a minor basilica of the said name, because many devotees go to the basilica and pray the image, which is now displayed in the church. And this next painting shows here is the one Spanish soldier discovered the Santo Niño in a hut, or in Tagalog they call it kubo. So after many pillaging of villages, because of the Spaniards actually came, so they hide the Santo Niño in a hut, surrounded by the wolves or anitos, because it is considered as the first pagan Christian image before baptizing into Catholicism back then. Many believe it was to worship the little child, like a little god.
Yeah.
And this next painting shows here is Santo Niño became a venerated patron of the Augustinian friars, the Spaniards, and the Cebuanos, because every third Sunday of January we celebrate the Sinulog Festival in Cebu. Many visitors and locals celebrate it because there is energetic music, energetic dance, competitions, even celebrities came to see the festival. And this last painting shows here is Father Andres Urdaneta returns from Alabama, Mexico, after Magellan just discovered to colonize into the Visayan region. His legacy, he died in 1568, and his legacy became known that he is the guy who discovered the Acapulco Manila route, which took more than 250 years using one of the ships. It called it a return voyage from Mexico.
Okay.
So before going outside to the ground floor, this is the original certificate from the UNESCO that recognized San Agustin Church in Intramuros, Manila as one of its first title, the Baroque Church of the Philippines, and declared as a World Heritage Site. Not just San Agustin declared as one, but also three of them. One of them is Paway and Santa Maria in Ilocos Norte, and Miagao Church, which is located in Iloilo, which is made from sandstone. This certificate was given on December 11, 1993.
Good thing.
This way to preserve the heritage here at this old church though. Alright, so this is the ground floor cloister of the town, which is now a museum.
Where was it before?
This is the original place.
Oh,
Of this
okay.
retablo.
Oh, okay.
This is where they pray for processions. They're pilgrimage companions of the saints who were habited to their Augustinian habit. One of the example here is Saint Nicholas of Tolentino, because he was a patron saint, was an Augustine monk who devoted to his love for the everlasting life, and he was also the patron saint of the souls in purgatory. So this gallery shows here is the life of Saint Augustine. Starting from the first painting, shows Saint Augustine back then was an alcoholic and a womanizer back then. So he was very ill and he went to a fountain because, as you can see outside, there was a convent and there was a middle of it is a fountain, because this is a reminder of Saint Augustine's life. So as he went to a fountain, where did he find fresh water? And the book stood behind him because in the fountain. And in the voice from heaven, and it says the description, Tode lege, which means take it and read, take it and read. The book that he read is the Bible or the Biblia. So from being an atheist and he was converted to Christianity. As his next painting shows here, he was baptized by Saint Ambrose, who was a bishop at that time. This next painting shows here is Saint Augustine together with his mother Santa Monica. They were now devoted to Christian life. This next painting shows here the Augustinian order was founded by Saint Augustine. The deathbed of Saint Augustine, when he died in an old age, and his remains returned to Milan in Italy. And this last painting does the climax of Saint Augustine in heaven, because he was now a patron saint of the church and the Augustine order. But sadly, we cannot go to the church because it's closed for a many times. So let's go to the sacristy instead. And this next gallery over here is the paintings that were actually made from coffee. Because watercolor or either oil canvas were expensive, so they put coffee because it was color brown. So in the sacristy, as we enter, it smells like mothballs. Because the main reason why is this drawer over here is they put the vestments or the clothes of the priest back then. They were originals inside. So I won't allow to open it because it's forbidden. So they put one vestment per one drawer and then put mothballs to preserve because of they never damage it. And over here is the retablo from the 1617, which is made by a Filipino sculptor, Juan de los Santos. He was a Filipino who commissioned to sculpted this retablo mayor, which is located originally from the San Agustin Church, but it was way too big, so they put here in the sacristy instead. So the altar is the Augustine saint, somewhere made from ivory, and then wood, which is on the middle. And the Santos over here were chopped up, the hands. And because in 1762, when the British or the British forces bombard Manila and then captured and pillaged the church and convent of San Agustin. Many treasures, books, manuscripts, even the wearments and the vessels, which is right over here. But they used to chop the hands because they would sell to Chinese merchants. But during revolutionary period, they later used the hands of the Santos and became wearing of an amulet, which is called in Filipino anting anting, or put it simply, lucky charm. So you wear an anting anting if you're very sick with bullets. But it's very effective during Holy Week though. And then over here is the liturgical vessels that they use in the church. And this is made from gold and silver, and one of them is the monstrance from the early 17th century, which is made from precious gold, and they are decorated with precious gemstones. You may see here you may able to see here because it's actually real gold, and like emeralds and diamonds they put it to decorate it in this gold. This is the processional banners that they also use for the processions, or they call it the flags of faith. And then this is made from embroidered silk and golden thread, and it's actually made from real gold as they melted the gold and then sew it on every edge.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's real gold though.
Whoa. Fantastic, yo.
Processional cross and candelabras, which is made from silver, which is they used for the altar servers back then. And this is what I mentioned earlier, the vestment. This is actually looks like. This is they wear of the priest every liturgical mass, but it's all colorway, which represents it's kind of Easter. But they won't allow to wash it because it's damaging the dress. They won't allow to wash it. And of course, they're actually made from gold thread, called golden thread though.
Yeah, okay.
They are all.
Yeah.
And over here is the liturgical Bible, books, missals from Spain, Belgium, and sometimes Rome. However, it was Latin though.
Yeah, okay.
And over here is the big cabinets, which is they use for the store or the store of the liturgical vestments at the time. But during World War II, when Japanese forces began to massacre Manila, many Filipinos said that this is their hiding spot.
Wow.
This is where the Filipinos hide inside the cabinet. Yes, it's actually said in history. So whenever there was a Japanese find out they were inside, they were tortured and killed instantly.
Okay.
Alright, so this is the antesacristia, which is the back then it was a room of the lay ministers and altar servers, because there was a shortcut all the way to the church proper back then, but it was now the display of the Santos and the replicas like this one, like Our Lady Constellation, which is the 18th century replica. Although the original image was in the church, on the right side of the altar. And this is the Santos actually looks like, which is made from ivory. And this is the Santos without the garments, which is made from wood, which is the black thing. Because the white over here is ivory, so they easily to put carved wood, so they would easily carry the Santos. But if they made from ivory, it was very heavy though. So instead they put wood instead. It's like your cat. It's like this statues are kind of like a shopping mall mannequin.
Yeah.
Speaking of ivory, this is the ivory of the crucifix, which is made from 100% ivory, which is they ship from Africa all the way to Mexico and then the Philippines later on. And last but not the least is the different statues of the Immaculate Conception, which is also as a devout Marian though. And this is actually made from wood, which is the body, and the head and hands were ivory. Except one thing, the hairs. It's actually made from real human hair.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, they kind of like a Spanish lady, but they weren't allowed to dye black because it looks kind of like a native or an Indio. Because they distrust the Filipinos back then, so they were made to a blonde. here is the wash basin, or they call it lavabo or sink. This is they used to clean, to wash the priests back then. There were no bathrooms and comfort rooms at the times, but there were sometimes they were called latrines back then. And after they clean themselves, they wear up the liturgical vestments and then go walk straight to the anti-sacristia to the church, because this is their shortcut all the way to the church. As I mentioned earlier, as the sacristia was the room of the lay ministers and altar servers, but this sacristy is the room of the dressing room of the priests, hence the cabinets, the drawers, and the vestments.
Fantastic to see all these things.
Yes.
So this is the Little Fondes, or the crypt and columbarium of San Agustin, which many of them were buried in ashes. Also, we got a extension of the new columbarium, which is right over here, for private purposes only, for the burial of their loved ones. But this is the old columbarium, which is open for the public. Many of the famous people who were buried, like Maria Orosa recently, she was buried here this year in 2025, and she is the victim during the Japanese massacre in the old Remedios Hospital in Malate, Manila. And she was a Filipina chemist and scientist during the Japanese occupation, and her legacy, and she became known as the inventor of the banana ketchup, which is a sweetened ketchup version in the Philippines. And we use it for dipping and for meals though. Over here is the tombstone of Teodoro Agoncillo. He is a Filipino historian before Pedro Campo and Xiao Chuba. And he was the author of texts of Philippine history back then. And nowadays, their textbooks in Philippine history were later used for colleges and university studies, like general education courses in my university though. In the middle of the columbarium is the stone memorial of the victims during World War II, and this is the mass graves of the victims of 140 people, especially priests. The Japanese dug the big hole and they put the victims on it, and then they sometimes bumped alive and even shot by a gun. 3 of them survived during the massacre. One of them is an Augustinian priest who tells the massacre of Manila 80 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Although Norway was really occupied by the Germans, though, but we're the first to be massacred. But Norway was later liberated by Germany, though. So anyway, so last but not least, a well-known famous people who is our hero at the time, which is right over here in niche number 73, is Juan Luna. He is a painter and painter during the propagandist era, while Spain was under the Philippine control in the Philippines. So they went to Barcelona to create the La Liga Filipina, which is its leader is Dr. Jose Rizal, our national hero. His legacy was he had many paintings though, and this well-known example here is Las Polarium, which is you able to see the big painting which is located at the National Museum of Fine Arts. Alright, so this is the refectory. Or this is the dining room of the Augustine friars back then. And on the right side of the refectory is called the Castigo de la Piedra, or the punishment of the stone. And this is where they use for punishment after they arrive the community so late. That is actually look like this. So they kneel down and then face the wall and then serve here in this table a half of bread and water.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, they used to punish back then. But this is they put their layers. But the original was this one. So if they remove the so-called the second layer. Okay, so this is the table actually looks like back then. And this is their bread that they eat. But it's not even real.
Yeah, I understand.
But actually, it actually looks like it. Well, in the 18th century though. And in the ceiling over here is the original paintings. This is they call the paintings that they nearly faded. That represents the Holy Family. Near the altar is represents Jesus. On the middle is represents Mary. As you can see, there was a letter M because it was an anagram. On the near the entrance here is Joseph. So this is the car book actually looks like back there. This is the parchment paper of choir book. This is they use in the church for singing the choir. It's actually made from animal skin of the paper. Yeah, cow, sheep, goat, horse, pig. It was paper, but like Oslo paper, bond paper, or typewriting paper was not yet introduced now back then, but it was used back then during the 16th century. But this actually looks like of the choir books that they are now displayed here at the show. But originally the choir books was displayed in the lectern, so it was no longer used in the lectern because it's damaging, but for conservation purposes. There are 4 of them, the Baroque Church of the Philippines. One of them is San Agustin Church in Manila, and this is Hawaii and Santa Maria in Ilocos Norte. And this is our church in Iloilo, which is actually made from sandstone.